bit about the game while playing? Sure. Okay, so this will be the teaching game where I try to explain everything that's going on. We will wait for the 8 players. I'll give some background. So the game is set on Mars. You've probably gathered that. It's an economic game where you try to buy out your opponents. You make money by selling things on a stock market. The stock market is a free market. Every time you sell to the market, the price decreases, and it's a shared market between you and all of your opponents. Anytime your opponents sell items to the market, the price for everyone goes down, and every time you or your opponents buy from the market, the price goes up. And that's the main source of variety in the game, this buying and selling. And the buying and selling is influenced by the procedurally generated random maps, and also that the different headquarter types or races, base types, use resources in slightly different ways. So every game there'll be different pushes and pulls on the different resources on the marketplace. And so you try to balance all of that out. Plus there's direct sabotage you can do to different opponents by buying different items off of the black market. And you try to mix all that together and outplay your opponents. We are at 7. There's going to be an 8. So that's a general overview, maybe a little convoluted, but I assume you've all seen a little bit of the game in action already. And I'll explain what I'm doing and why once we hop into the game. Looks like we need one more player. Yes, the fact that the replay file may or may not cause lag or game instability is more or less an urban myth at this stage. But the replay functionality isn't the greatest anyways, so there's no real point in recording it, at least at the moment. Okay, let's go. So the starting phase of the game is exploration. You scan, get an idea of what's on the map, and try to find what you think is the best spot, resource-wise, for you to drop your HQ on. I think I'm liking scientific right here.
Be a rather skilled researcher yourself. I couldn't have found a more.
Okay, so there were 4 different headquarters types there. I rushed through them because I'm also trying to win. And you start off with some resources. It's generally a good idea to sell down the resources you're not going to use right away, while their prices are still set at the beginning set point, because everyone else wants to sell down as well. And so if you can sell down early, you'll get the biggest return there, and hopefully use that money to buy yourself into an upgrade quickly. So there were other headquarter types there. I won't discuss them now. Mars itself has several different resources that you can mine directly. So the yellow is silicon, the bluish teal is aluminum, the red is the rusty iron, blue is water, and that's pretty much it. There's black as carbon. And then the only other concerns are elevation, which affects the efficiency of solar, but the differential in solar yields are relatively flat, so it's not a major concern. Ridges have a certain wind value, so this is very strong, which is important for wind power generation. And then on some maps you'll have dry ice and water ice, which you can build different condensers which operate during the day-night cycle to get you either carbon dioxide based resources or water based resources, namely water. So those are all the parts. There aren't really a lot of parts in this game compared to a game like Civ 5, which is one of the games that I used to play quite a lot of. And to answer your question, Jackster J, I will be playing some Civ 5. Maybe not tonight, but I'm definitely going to continue or restart the Earth map game that I started on Sunday. So we'll upgrade here. The reason you upgrade is to unlock more claims. Claims on Mars let you build buildings that can make use of the particular primaries or whatever secondaries you need. We've been targeted by pirates here. Pirates steal resources as they're transported between distant tiles and your base. They have a 50% chance or something like that of stealing every shipment that passes through them, and they stick around until they steal 200 units of whatever passes through them. Okay, so we need to do something with these claims. I'm thinking, well, let's get some wind going. Wind generation near our base would be okay. The downside from this is if someone wanted to send an EMP there, they could potentially take down our energy and some of our other tiles. So that's the drawback. The advantage is there is a patent that will double the output of all of our power generation superconductors if we attach it to our HQ. So that's a possibility for us here. And we want to keep an eye on what we think is going to get expensive. Water is relatively, well, water on this map I would say is intermediate. So I'm going to get an early water pump going on the high, and then let's move into what else is expensive here. We want to buy down some more of the glass before it gets too expensive, because like I said, every time anyone buys glass it raises the price, and this way we can get some of the cheaper glass early, which we'll need to get into our next upgrade before everyone else drives the price up there. And with my last claim, let's go and build out another bit of power. We can free up some cash by selling down some of that steel and dropping a wind turbine there, and we'll also grab a goon squad to protect this. Because the price of power is really high right now, it's a very attractive target for people to mutiny or otherwise sabotage, so I definitely want to have a goon squad on that. Oh yeah, I didn't mention Offworld prices, we'll get to that later. So I love the theme of the goon squad. It's just this whole weird Martian story of all these companies here, everyone traveling by blimp for some reason, hiring a bunch of troublemakers off of this, clandestine black market, and the only defense is a squad of goons who keep their eye out for people running little tractors across the Martian surface, or little sneaky blimps coming in trying to drop a suitcase nuke or a power surge, or a takeover squad trying to mutiny your buildings. And then this just squad of goons goes and not only do they stop the suitcase nuke, but they take it for you and let you place that nuke somewhere else at a time and place of your choosing. So it's a very understated, very interesting flavor that I certainly enjoy. Okay, we need the steel. The pirates are definitely cutting into our steel revenues here. So it's going to take a while for us to get over to the next upgrade. So the advantages of upgrading are, as I mentioned, more claims. The disadvantage is every time you go up an HQ level, your consumption of different resources increases. So all the colonies except for robotic have consumption for these life support resources: water, food, oxygen, and the blimps require fuel. So that's the downside of going up in HQ level. It also attracts more attention from the other players. They say, hey, look, that guy's upgrading really fast, we should probably sabotage him. So that's the downside there. Being slow to upgrade isn't necessarily bad, especially in an 8-player game, so I don't feel too terrible that I'm stuck at level 2 for so long. And we'll go take our upgrade here. Our steel is still making money, so I might want to go and drop another steel mill there. The advantage of scientific is that they resources that require primary resources, if you build them directly on top of the primary resources, you can they're freely and automatically supplied. So any other HQ type would need iron mines or would need to buy iron off the market to be making this steel. But as scientific, I do not need that. Okay, so we've just upgraded and we want to get into some farms here. The price of food is really good, so we'll drop a couple of farms there. And getting into glass would be a good plan as well as silicon to support that glass production. The price of silicon is definitely rising. The debt. The downside to debt is the higher your debt, the lower your stock price becomes. So your stock price, all of these different values go into calculating your stock price, and your debt is a negative stock price multiplier, and the value of your debt times 5 feeds into your stock price, or times -5, or the negative value. So debt makes your stock cheaper, which is bad because then your opponents can buy you more easily. You can also buy yourself more easily. So sometimes a good plan is when your debt happens to be really high and your stock price is really low, but you have a lot of liquid assets, is you buy up all your stock, or as much stock as you can afford, and then pay down your debt. But that's not our problem right now. Our debt's not really too bad. Auctions, your bid for an auction comes out of your debt, and all of your negatives when you're paying life support come out of your debt as well. So that's how your debt can get out of control. But debt is a useful tool. Debt is free borrowing, and as most people know, being able to borrow money is generally how you make money. In real life and in this game. Okay, let's keep on selling stuff down here. Well, we won't sell down too much of the steel and aluminum because we do want to upgrade. I might want to switch some of this stuff into glass. The turbines are making us almost no money. Let's get rid of those for now and put glass production in. And what else do I want? I could pick up this $16,000 claim. Let's do that. And we'll go... Wait, I forgot. I'm scientific. What I want to be doing, cancel that, is building glass on top of silicon, because that's one of the primary input resources. So let's just build out a glass nearby. The price of fuel isn't outrageous. Let's just build a single glass there. And what do I want to do with these tiles then? And that also means, so while I was busy telling you a nice story about how the game works, I forgot I was scientific. I should be building these farms on top of water. But right now, food is so valuable that it doesn't matter that I'm not getting free water, because water is really cheap. So let's just put some more farms here. They're pretty expensive to build out because the price of glass is so high. These guys need to be on auto supply. And we'll put future farms up there. We also want to have this guy to auto supply. So I think I'm going to stop with my full overview of all of the basics. But if you guys have questions, I'll try to go and look over at
Baltic colony expanded.
At the chat now if you have more questions about the game or other stuff in general. Vita Belgive is asking why I don't have Twitch partnership. I generally don't have 3,000 viewers. This is all off the Trump host, which I am quite thankful for. Alright, so let's go and upgrade there. We have to buy a bunch of glass, and now it's time to get into glass in earnest. So let's drop a glass triangle over here, and more farms. So maybe a farm up here. And we'll drop one farm here with the plan of dropping more farms there later. Virtual reality, price of power is low, power with a gun is after us for some reason. I mean, we are a good buy. Our stock price is low compared to our headquarter level. So we'll get that rolling out. And we need water. That means we need the funds to buy the water off the market. Sell some of this down.
Your stock is being bought.
I just squared on to explain the 5 special buildings while I'm being hounded by Potter with a gun here. Okay, well, let's try to get that in order first, and then we'll worry about talking about the different special buildings. Everything else is on auto supply, right? Yep, good. These guys should be making us money. I need to do something about Potter with a gun here. So that means either paying down my debt or buying up my own stock. Buying up my stock, every chunk of stock, every 1,000 shares you buy raises the price and thus the cost of the next chunk. But Potter with the gun is making a lot of money from somewhere. The other option is to throw some black market at him. So let's go and blow up. Defended! Oh, just my luck. Well done, Potter. Well done. Okay, so we will explain the special buildings along the bottom as soon as either I'm dead or I'm out of this dangerous situation that Potter's got me in.
Your stock is being bought.
Which it seems more and more likely that it's the death option that's going to get us. Now we can keep selling down the food. That gets us some nice cash on hand. We'll pay down the debt to raise our stock price, make it a little more difficult for Potter to grab us here. And we want to make sure we're not losing money on any of our claims here. So most of our claims are making at least $80 a second, which is really good. It's a really good place to be. We're making a lot of money off the glass. We're paying a fair amount of money for the fuel, but it's not outrageous and the price of fuel isn't that bad. Alright, so let's stop selling stuff down. Well, Potter's at about 50% of what he needs to buy us. So we can either throw sabotage at him to try to stop him from buying us out. Let's see, where's he making his money? Lots of money off, well, not as much money as before. Fair money off the farms. Fair money off of the carbon quarries, and not very good money off of the aluminum. Okay, so Potter's scary, but not that scary. Let's worry about getting to our next upgrade. And should I power surge Potter here? I think I should. Especially since he's flashing at 72%. Freeze all of that down. So the goon squads are cleared once they intercept a sabotage item. So I tried to blow up this tile, which Potter had protected with the goon squad. And so now it's no longer protected, and I'm free to freeze all of that down. So I've frozen down his farms with the power surge. So the power surge is very effective. The main target is frozen down for 2 minutes, which is pretty good. So that should slow Potter down. My objective here should be to buy down Potter, but I don't have the income to make that happen, because if I bought Potter, I would own all of my own stock and I'd be in a very safe position. But what am I losing money on here? Let's sell down all that glass, get rid of our debt. I don't want Potter to surprise us with that. And then by the time we have the next glass shipment in, we'll be able to upgrade. Yeah, Zoltar, feel free to answer any questions in the chat. That works too. So now we have some breathing room while we're waiting for all the resources to upgrade to roll in. Let's explain the 5 special buildings as Aja Squared requested. So you've got the Pleasure Dome, which is a place where the citizens of Mars go for recreation. No one's exactly sure what happens there, but virtual reality can be involved and it consumes a lot of power. But the main thing there is that it's a building you can build, and it costs 1 power per second, and it'll give you a large chunk of money based on the population that's on Mars at the time. If people build multiple pleasure domes, they can increase, there's a slight increase in the amount of money per pleasure dome, but overall they split the pot of the entertainment-seeking people on Mars. So building a whole bunch of pleasure domes usually doesn't make sense unless it's to deprive someone else of their pleasure dome profits. So if you have 3 pleasure domes and your opponent has 1, then you would take 75% of the Mars entertainment pot or monies. There's the patent lab, which lets you research patents. Only one person can have a patent, a particular patent in any given game. The patents give you special bonuses, and it costs chemicals to research patents. Potter with a Gun is getting ever closer to buying us here. We have a bunch of claims that we need to use. We might need to scrap these farms here and put in something else. We want to get these guys back into power. Power is going back up in price. So I'm going to drop some, oh, that's too expensive. What about carbon? Carbon would be cheaper. Let's put out some, well, power's going back down in price. Okay, we won't worry about that for now. Sell some of this stuff down. Sell down all that glass. We're making really good money off of glass. Potter with a gun could buy us any time now, which is not a good place to be. I don't really need that geothermal either. Okay, what's going to make us money here? Electronics is going to be pretty good. Let's drop, well, with the price being so high, let's not worry about the scientific special bonus. Let's just drop a triangle of electronics there and a singleton electronic factory right there. But we really should make use of our scientific special ability. So if I want to drop more electronics, or Potter with the gun can buy us. Alright, let's keep on watching this game, and we'll continue explaining about the special buildings. Okay, another special building. Okay, we can go over what the patents are. Or we can't because they're all listed. We'll go over the patents in our next game. And we'll hang around in this game for at least 5 minutes, see how things shake out while we go over questions from the chat and the remaining 3 special buildings. So the third special building is the engineering lab. And this lets you increase your production for each of these resources, including power. So you can increase your power production, and so you would get a bonus multiplier to all of your buildings that make power. And just like with patents, the engineering lab improvements also cost chemicals to research. There's the hacker array, which lets you raise or lower the market price, and that costs money to put in a hack. It takes a certain amount of time. Surpluses execute in half the time and cost less than shortages. Surpluses reduce the cost of a certain resource, whereas shortages increase the cost. And so that's really good. You can make whatever your opponent is making their most of their money off of cheaper, and thus hurt them, or you can make whatever you're making a lot of, or whatever you have a huge stockpile of, more expensive before you sell it down. So the hacker array is definitely something good that you should be making use of. And the final thing is the Offworld market. The Offworld market is extremely expensive to build out. It costs 400 steel, 100 glass, and 100 electronics. But what it lets you do is sell stuff off-world. So the on-world price fluctuates, as I mentioned, based on what everyone in the game is buying and selling. But the off-world price, the off-world market, is so large that the small shipments coming off of Mars doesn't affect the price there. So these prices are stable throughout the game. So towards the end game, when you're creating or generating a lot of resources and selling them, the more you sell, the lower the price gets. And so you usually end up needing to tap into the off-world market. Now in this game, the most valuable resource off-world is fuel. So right now, on-world, selling 1 unit of fuel gets you $84. Selling 1 unit of fuel off-world gets you $621. So people will eventually move into off-worlds, and they'll make really good money off of shipping fuel. Now, the rocket required to ship stuff off-world, I think you ship 100 units at a time. So you lose 100 fuel if you ship fuel. And then it also costs fuel and aluminum to ship off-world. I think it's 10 fuel and 10 aluminum, or maybe it's 20 fuel and 20 aluminum per shipment. So that's something to keep in mind, but off-worlds can be very powerful, but they don't win you the game. They're not auto-win buildings by any means. All right, so I think this game's going to go on for quite a bit longer. And I'm going to go and start a new game, unless the chat really wants to see how this game plays out. Trump SC is saying that he's going to be in the next tournament, and he's going to take it. Take the ultimate victory there. That'll be great. Unfortunately, I got knocked out in the very first round of the Offworld tournament. But Layla is organizing another one, so maybe I'll face Trump in that. And there are definitely calls for a new game, so we'll get a new game rolling right now.